Thank you for watching the first ever Fit to Respond, Fit to Retire video within the series that we plan on putting out here shortly. The fitness coordinators have been working really hard to put together some trainings that I think are going to be really useful. This one is Captain Stafford's program that he's put together to prep us for the TPT. In this video, we will go over the structure of Captain Stafford's program as well as each movement within the program. Ideally, 6 weeks is what you need to prepare effectively for the TPT, and I realize that I'm not going to get this to some of you in time for that. So keep in mind that 3 to 4 weeks will still give you some decent preparation and prime you for that TPT day. Rate of perceived exertion is what we're using to scale the workouts. So each workout will be rated on a scale of 1 to 10, and that's rated perceived exertion. So how difficult that would feel for you that day. For this program or any program to be effective, there's 3 things you need to keep in mind. And that is, number 1, not to get injured. And part of that is warming up your pillar, and how we're going to look at the pillar and how we're going to communicate this in the future with the fitness coordinators is that it's from your shoulders to your hips. So the front of your stomach to the back, lower back, upper back, that's all core. And your shoulders and your hips, they're both stabilizing groups and primary movers. Next, we want to make sure that our movements are high quality and that we're always trying to make them a little bit better. And how we do that is by asking for some help and for other people to look at how we're moving. The third and final thing is recovery. If we're not taking the time after we exercise to get the proper nutrition in that we need to rest and rebuild, then we're not going to be able to achieve those goals that we're looking to achieve. We're going to end up breaking down over time. The program is broken down into 6-day work cycles based on the 48-96. So you'll have 2 days on and 1 day off, and 1 to 2 aerobic days depending on your goals. Let's go over the movements now, and we'll start with weeks 1 through 3, which are going to be the same movements for those weeks, and then we'll go on to weeks 3 through 6. So goblet squats, remember to keep that neutral spine throughout the entire movement. The hips lead the motion, and you can see Ward's good neutral lower back as he descends into the squat. The sumo deadlift is great for those people that have lower back injuries, because you can see Cade's upper body is more upright than if you were in a traditional deadlift. One thing to keep in mind is you need a certain amount of hip and hamstring flexibility for this motion, and you want your knees to be over your ankles the entire time. You see his lower leg is perpendicular to the floor when he's at the bottom. The idea behind the farmer carry is to strengthen your core. So make sure that before you pick that weight up off the ground that you're engaging that core as much as possible. And as you're moving forward, if it ever varies or if you feel unstable, drop it. When you're using a weight in one hand, you have that opposing strain on the opposite side of the core. You just got to balance that out, doing both sides. And the plank is also a really basic movement, but can be done wrong. And if it's done wrong, like this right here, you're going to injure your back. So exercising is good if the form is good. Otherwise, you could be perpetuating an injury. Going to that stabilization of the core with the shoulder press, it's also important not to lean back when you're pushing that weight over your head and to the side, especially when you have just one arm weighted. So you're going straight up, but you're keeping your shoulders parallel to the ground. This is a lat pull down / pull up. So this is a progression starting on the floor with the lat pull down with the bands. It's a great exercise. If you want to progress it, you can do a pull up with the band, which is preferable to the lat pull down. And then you can progress on to the pull up with no weight, which is the idea. When you're pulling up, make sure that you're engaging those lats and using the right musculature to move your body. And this also requires a certain amount of stability throughout the back. A lot of people struggle with their upper back, so Captain Stafford put in quite a few of these upper back movements. And if you do these, it's going to balance out to the anterior to posterior part of your shoulder. A lot of people have shoulder injuries, So this will help prevent that. The band pull apart is engaging that upper back, and keeping your pinkies up with this motion is important to target that upper back. The bear crawl is a pretty common movement, but a lot of people wag side to side when they do it. And if you looked at Cade, he had that core nice and tight throughout that whole movement. The only things that were moving were his shoulders and his feet. Day 3 of your first week through third week is going to be active recovery, and that can be some light aerobic work with a rate of perceived exertion from 4 to 5, and that's keeping your heart rate nice and low around 125. So that's equivalent to the conversational pace. If you want to do something else that's active, that's getting you out there just moving, whether it be yoga or mobility work or anything like that, I think that's a good way to actively recover. Lunges are a movement that are pretty common, but if you do them wrong, they could mess up that knee and you could end up tearing some ligaments in there. So we want to make sure that we're using that front leg to move the body and that your body is upright. This is a push-up, also a really common exercise that a lot of people do incorrectly. And when you have that shoulder up towards your ear, or if you have your elbows out, flared out, that's going to put too much pressure on your shoulder joint. This is a single arm row, and commonly you see people dip that shoulder and you get that upper body doing a seesaw motion with the ground. And if you're doing that, then you can create some injuries in the back. That torsion, the twisting of the spine isn't good. So you want to keep your core tight. And remember, we said that core is from your hips to your shoulders. This is to simulate picking up a hose and carrying it up the stairs like we do in the TPT. One thing we wanted to highlight here was how we pick up things off the ground. And then it's not just for the TPT, but in general. If we're picking things up hinging at our lower back, then over time we will create an injury. That's just how the body works. We don't necessarily feel those fibers separate and break down over time in the vertebral disc, but that is what's happening. There's just no nerve fibers there to tell us that is what's happening. And then eventually we have that bulge disc, which is a result of years and years of improper movement most of the time. So here you see Cade doing a sumo pickup, and then he's going to also show a split leg lunge type pickup here. And with each of these, we're keeping the core tight, standing up, and just like any other carry, we want to keep that core tight throughout the entire movement. Mountain climbers are another common movement that I think, if done recklessly and incorrectly, can lead to injury. This is to increase core strength. So if we're focusing on that, we're tightening the core as much as we can, bringing those knees up and then back down. Day 5 is going to be a aerobic day where you get in at least 20 to 30 minutes at an RPE, rate of perceived exertion, of 8 to 9. So that is going to be a heart rate around 120 to 140, and that will definitely vary depending on the person. And day 6 ideally would be the day before you go back on duty to prepare you for shift work. Is going to be full recovery. Now let's move on to weeks 3 through 6. With these sandbag front squats, you can see that I'm overemphasizing the breath in to descent into the squat so that you hold in that nice tight core all the way through the movement. It's going to be the same with the sandbag deadlift. I'm showing the locking the shoulder blades back, getting those shoulders stable as you're moving the weight with your legs. Cade's demonstrating the sandbag power clean, and this is a scaled version for those people that can't descend all the way into that bottom sumo position. And pay attention to his posture throughout this. If you're approaching the bag or the bar with correct posture, it's going to reduce the chance of you slipping into that improper movement. Some things for the step up to consider is, number 1, your hip flexor strength. You can see that Cade has some pretty good hip flexors. He can lift up that leg, no problem above the knee. But when somebody tries to get a little too aggressive with the height of their step up, then you're not going to get that hip all the way up. It's just not natural. And then when you step down, you see his butt curl under. That's terrible flexion for the spine. That will create injury in the future. So be aware of that. The side plank is great for stability, and we wanted to show just the basic movement. This can be scaled. You can go from your knees to your shoulders and resting either on your hand or your elbow. So it can be scaled for difficulty however you'd like. But the idea behind it is to keep the hips and ankles all in line from front to back. Another tip is this one here. You see Justin holding his shoulder, and this is to keep that shoulder in nice and tight if you have a loose joint there that you're trying to strengthen as far as stability goes. But otherwise, it's great stability training for the shoulder as well. The Zercher carry is a great variation on the farmer carry, and the idea is to hold the weight in the crease of your elbow, whether it be a bar or a sandbag. The alternating arm press is difficult because if you have two weights in both arms, you're trying to counteract the tendency to press up and dip the opposite shoulder to get that weight all the way up. So a way to increase the difficulty of this exercise is to put a weight in the opposite arm and to oppose the strain that it's putting on your core as you lift one side up at a time. As with a lot of the movements in the second set of weeks within this program, the lat pull down and pull up are going to be changed slightly to a different grip, which would be the chin up like you can see here, or the lat pull down with a different grip with the bands. Working on the upper back, again with bands, we have the upper back Ys and Ws, and with this movement, just like with the band pull parts and the face pulls, we want to make sure that we're using lightweight and that we're not straining the back. Another tendency that we want to be careful of with both face pulls and this W here is the tendency to use mostly traps. Try to pull down and use those lats as much as possible. Remember, with any ground movements, just like we were talking about with the forward bear crawl, the reverse bear crawl, you'll need to maintain that neutral, strong core. Again, day 3 is going to be an active recovery day or a light aerobic day, depending on your goals and your need. So if you're trying to lose weight, it would be a good day to do some low intensity exercise and cardio. Day 4 of the second set of weeks with this program is pretty similar to the first set of weeks, and it's going to be lunges to push-ups. Remember to keep the core tight with all of these movements, and if you feel like you want to increase the intensity, a good way to do that would be to slow it down. For instance, you could lower the weight in 3 to 4 seconds and then bring it up in 1 as a way to get that neuromuscular connection and improving that overall movement and strength, incorporating more muscle fibers as you're doing it. This is also same as that first set of weeks. You're working on your ability to pick up that hose bundle, put it on your shoulder, walk with a strong core. A great way to increase the difficulty of this and to make it specific to the TPT would be to pick up the hose bundle and then walk up some stairs or do some step-ups with a box. Again, with the mountain climbers, it's important to keep that core nice and stable throughout this entire movement. The idea behind this is to improve that stabilizing ability of your core. Again, day 5 is going to be aerobic work with an RPE of 8 to 9, and the heart rate should be around 130. So when you do the next set of weeks in this program, you'll see that Captain Stafford has some variation on the first set. Day 6 is recovery. Make sure you take advantage of your recovery day and get that full recovery with the nutrition you need. And the idea behind the recovery deload week is that you allow your body to fully recover to get ready for that TPT test. Thank you for watching the video. Here's a list of fitness coordinators that would be happy to help if you need. Please contact us if you have any questions or if you'd like some assistance.